Have you ever faced a season where you had to stay in a dry place, trusting God's voice, even when everything around you said, leave? In Genesis chapter 26, Isaac faces a famine. Yet God tells him something unusual. Do not go down to Egypt. It's a powerful reminder that blessings are often tied to obedience, not location. Welcome to our King's invitation, where we reflect deeply, trace pain back to Eden, and walk in the healing truth of God's Word. This is Reading the Bible Daily with OKI. The story opens with a familiar echo of hardship. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the previous famine in Abraham's time. It's a stark reminder that life, even for the chosen, is not exempt from trials. Isaac, like his father before him, is pushed by circumstance towards a logical solution: Egypt. Egypt was the ancient world's breadbasket, a symbol of provision and security when the rains failed in Canaan. It was the sensible choice, the path of self-preservation. But just as Isaac is about to follow the well-trodden road to safety, God intervenes with a command that defies all human logic. He says, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you." This divine instruction is the cornerstone of the entire chapter. God said, stay. Stay in the place of scarcity. Stay where the ground is cracked and the future looks bleak. Why? Because God's blessing is not dependent on geographical advantage or economic stability. It is tethered to His presence and our obedience. He wanted to teach Isaac and us that He is the source of our provision, not the world's systems. The command to stay was a test of faith, an invitation to depend solely on Him. It's a difficult lesson to learn when our instincts scream for us to flee to our own personal Egypts. Whether that's an old habit, a toxic relationship, or a career path that promises security but compromises our calling. God's plan was to make Isaac prosper in the famine, not away from it, to display His power in the midst of weakness. Obedience in the face of uncertainty unlocks a level of blessing that running away can never provide. God follows His command with a powerful promise: I will be with you and will bless you. He reaffirms the covenant He made with Abraham, promising Isaac countless descendants in the very land he was tempted to abandon. The blessing was conditional, but not on Isaac's perfection. It was conditional on his obedience to stay. And so, Isaac obeyed. He settled in Gerar in the land of the Philistines. The result, the Bible tells us, Isaac planted crops in that land, and the same year reaped 100-fold. Because the Lord blessed him, 100-fold return in a year of famine is not just a good harvest, it's a miracle. It's a loud declaration that God's economy operates on different principles than the world's. Where the world saw lack, God produced abundance. This is the fruit of staying put when God says stay. It's a profound spiritual truth for our own lives. When we are in a season that feels spiritually, emotionally, or financially dry, our first instinct might be to change our circumstances. We want to find a new church, a new job, a new city, believing the solution is out there. But sometimes, the greatest growth and the most profound displays of God's power happen when we obey His call to remain, to trust that He can make a desert bloom. The blessing wasn't in Egypt, it was in Gerar, the place of obedience. It was tied to Isaac's willingness to trust God's word over his own eyes. Yet, even in this great act of faith, we see the fragile, human side of Isaac. He repeated his father's mistakes, revealing a generational pattern of fear. When the men of Gerar asked about his beautiful wife Rebekah, Isaac faltered. He said, "She is my sister," because he was afraid they would kill him to take her. This is the exact same lie his father, Abraham, told in the same region generations earlier. It's a sobering moment that shows us how easily fear can be passed down, how ancestral wounds and coping mechanisms can resurface under pressure. He had just received a direct promise of God's presence and protection. Yet in a moment of human weakness, he chose deception over faith. But God's grace is greater than our failures. The narrative doesn't condemn Isaac. Instead, it highlights God's unwavering protection. His plan was not thwarted by Isaac's fear. The truth is revealed not by a divine messenger, but through the mundane reality of life. Abimelech the king happens to see Isaac affectionately caressing Rebekah and realizes the deception. The king's reaction is one of righteous indignation, not aggression. He rebukes Isaac, but then issues a royal decree. Anyone who harms this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. In an incredible turn of events, Isaac's failure becomes the very instrument of his protection. God used a pagan king to secure the safety he had already promised. This is a beautiful picture of God's sovereignty. Our mistakes do not disqualify us from his plan. He is faithful even when we are faithless, and his protective hand remains over us, often working in ways we could never anticipate. As Isaac's prosperity grew, so did the envy of his neighbors. The Philistines, who once coexisted with him, now saw him as a threat. Their jealousy manifested in a particularly malicious way. They stopped up all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the time of his father Abraham, filling them with earth. A well in that arid climate was a lifeline. It represented life, sustenance, and generational inheritance. To fill a well was an act of extreme hostility, an attempt to choke off Isaac's prosperity at its source and erase his father's legacy. Faced with this aggression and told by King Abimelech to leave, Isaac had a choice. Isaac could fight, argue, and assert his rights, could hold on to the bitterness of injustice. Instead, Isaac chose peace. He moved on. He didn't retaliate or harbor resentment, simply relocated and began to dig again. This is a powerful lesson in spiritual resilience. When others try to stop your flow of life, when they fill your wells of joy, peace, or provision with the dirt of jealousy, bitterness, or conflict, the temptation is to fight back on their terms. But Isaac shows us a better way. He didn't waste his energy on the conflict. He invested it in finding a new source. He trusted that the God who provided the first well could provide another. He chose to dig again in peace, refusing to let the actions of others define his response or steal his destiny. Every well Isaac dug is a testimony of his spiritual growth and God's faithfulness. The first wells he dug were his father's. The Philistines quarreled over them, so he named them Esek, contention, and Sitnah, opposition. These names acknowledge the reality of the struggle. Isaac didn't pretend the conflict didn't exist. He named the pain, but he didn't stay there. He moved on again. Finally, he dug a new well, and this time there was no quarrel, meaning spaciousness or room, for he said, "Now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land." This journey from Esek to Sitnah to Rehoboth is a map of our own spiritual walk. We often move from places of contention and opposition, but if we persevere in peace, God will eventually lead us to a wide open space where we can flourish. From Rehoboth, Isaac moved to Beersheba, the place of his father's covenant with God. It was there that God appeared to him again that very night, repeating the promise, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and will increase your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham." It is in this place of peace and divine reassurance that true reconciliation happens. Abimelech, seeing that God was undeniably with Isaac, comes to him to make a covenant of peace. The very man who had driven him away now sought his favor. Isaac's response was not, "I told you so," but one of gracious hospitality. He prepared a feast, and they made a sworn treaty. On that same day, Isaac's servants found water, and he named that well Sheba, leading the place to be called Beersheba, the well of the oath. Each well marks a step forward, from conflict Esek to opposition Sitnah, to spaciousness Rehoboth, and finally, to covenant and divine promise Beersheba. The central message of this chapter rings with profound hope. The famine won't finish, you faith will. Isaac's story is proof that our circumstances do not have the final say. Famine, conflict, jealousy, and fear are all powerful forces, but they are not ultimate. Isaac prospered in the middle of a famine. He found peace in the middle of conflict. He received protection in the middle of his own fear. Why? Because his faith, though imperfect, was placed in a God who is perfect in faithfulness. The dry ground of the famine became the very soil where his faith grew deepest. The trials were not meant to destroy him. They were designed to display God's power through him. For us, this means that the season of lack, the period of waiting, the time of being misunderstood or opposed, these are not endings. They are fertile ground. They are the places where our roots must go deeper to find the living water that only God can provide. The famine is the context for the miracle. Ultimately, Genesis 26 is a testament to God's unwavering faithfulness, even when life feels painfully uncertain. Isaac's life was a mixture of faith and fear, obedience and old habits. He was not a perfect hero, but he was the son of a promise, and he served a God who keeps his promises. God was faithful to the covenant he made with Abraham, and he was faithful to Isaac in the midst of his personal struggles. He promised to be with him, and he was. He promised to bless him, and he did with 100-fold harvest, with protection from his enemies and with new wells in dry places. This story assures us that God's presence is not contingent on our perfect performance or ideal circumstances. He is with us in the famine. He is with us when we are afraid. He guides us through conflict toward our Rehoboth. His faithfulness is the anchor that holds us secure, even when the ground beneath our feet is shaking and the future is unknown. If this message blessed you, don't forget to subscribe and join this journey of reading the Bible daily with our King's invitation. See you in Genesis chapter 27, one whisper at a time.